You know how some people can just tell a story and have the entire room hanging on their every word? Well, other people, well, they share really important facts and they just don't seem to stick. Today, we are diving deep into the art and the science of storytelling. And we're going to use a really simple, learnable formula from communication expert Vin Jiang that can make literally anyone more memorable and influential.
Okay, so check this out. There's this amazing Stanford study that shows you everything you need to know. When students were given just the raw facts, they only remembered about 13% of the information later. Just 13%. But when those exact same facts were wrapped up in a story, boom, recall shot up to an incredible 93%. Now that is the difference between being heard and actually being remembered. So this brings up a huge question, right? If storytelling is basically a communication superpower, why are so many of us afraid to use it, especially at work? Why do we keep falling back on dry, boring facts and figures when we know that stories are the key to actually connecting with people? Well, it usually boils down to a few myths that we tell ourselves. These are the little excuses that keep us from tapping into this amazing skill. So, you know what? Let's just debunk them one by one. Okay, here is the big one. Myth number one, my life just isn't interesting enough. We think we need to have climbed Mount Everest or, I don't know, survived a shark attack to have a story worth telling. We look at our own lives and just think, oh, it's too normal, it's too mundane. But see, that's a total misunderstanding of what a story is. The power isn't in how crazy the event was. It's in the meaning you pull from it. Honestly, a simple story about a lesson your dog taught you can be way more powerful than some wild adventure because it's about a universal truth. It is all about perspective. All right, myth number two. This is the idea that stories are somehow unprofessional, that they're just fluff, and in the quote-unquote serious world, we need to stick to the hard data. But the total opposite is true. That so-called fluff is actually the glue that makes the facts stick. I mean, be honest, you might have already forgotten that 13% number I mentioned a minute ago. But if I told you a story about my dog, I bet you'd remember his favorite ball was bright orange. It's those specific sensory details that make information impossible to forget. And finally, we've got myth number three. This is the belief that storytelling is just some natural gift, that you're either born this charismatic, outgoing person who can spin a great yarn, or you're not, and that if you're a bit more introverted, well, you're just out of luck. The reality? Storytelling is not magic. It's a craft. It is a skill, just like any other, that you can learn, you can practice, and you can master. It's based on structure, and it's based on a few key ingredients, not on how loud you are or what your personality type is. Absolutely anyone can become a great storyteller. So, what are these secret ingredients? Let's get into the good stuff. We're going to break down the practical, hands-on formula that can turn anyone into a much more effective storyteller. And it's actually really simple. It comes down to these three powerful stops. First, you got to be specific. Second, you have to relive the moment, not just report on it. And third, maybe the most important of all, you have to share the meaning. Let's start with that first one, specificity. You could say, I was nervous. Okay, that's information, but it doesn't really make your audience feel anything. Now compare that to describing the physical evidence. My palms were so sweaty, the paper in my hands was starting to wrinkle. See? Suddenly your audience isn't just hearing that you are nervous, they're starting to feel it right there with you. A fantastic little tool for this is the 5 senses plus 1 emotion. So as you're putting your story together, just ask yourself, what did I see? What did I hear? What did I smell? By adding these little details and then sharing the emotion you felt, you're painting a vivid picture that lets your listeners step right inside the moment. Okay, ingredient number 2 is a total game changer. It's reliving versus reporting. Now, reporting is what we normally do. We talk about something that happened in the past. But to really pull your audience in, you need to relive it. And the simplest way to do this, just switch to the present tense. I was nervous becomes I am nervous. Bam! You're not a narrator anymore, you're a time traveler, and you're taking your audience with you. And that really is the core difference. Reporting just gives out information from a distance. Reliving, well, that's an invitation. It pulls your listener out of their chair and puts them right there in the scene with you. And that creates a really powerful emotional connection. All right, you've told a specific, vivid story in the present tense. Now for the final, absolutely crucial ingredient, you have to share the meaning. And this little phrase right here, the reason I'm telling you this is because This is the magic key. It's the bridge that connects your personal story to a universal lesson for your audience. Think about it this way. Your story is the doorway. It gets the audience to walk right up and open it. But the meaning, that reason I'm telling you this part, that's what actually invites them inside. It's what makes your story useful and relevant. It turns it into a gift. Without it, you're just sharing an anecdote. With it, you're sharing wisdom. So now that we have the how, the last piece of the puzzle is the when. Because, being a master isn't just about knowing how to tell a story. It's about knowing the right moment to use one. Here's a great little rule of thumb. If you've got some time and your goal is to be memorable, to influence someone, or to inspire them, a story is hands down your most powerful tool. But if someone asks you a direct question like, hey, can we deliver this by Friday? The most powerful thing you can do is give a clear, precise answer. You save the story for when you need to explain the why behind that answer. And this brings us to a final, really powerful idea that goes way beyond just communication techniques. This is about your perspective on life itself. It's about realizing that you have control over the narrative, the story of your own life. I mean, just think about that. It's such a powerful concept. You can choose to live your life in a way that actually creates stories worth telling later. You are the one holding the pen. You are the author, and you get to decide what the chapters are all about. So that leaves us with one final question to think about. Knowing you have these tools and knowing that you are the one holding the pen, what story are you going to choose to write and who are you going to share it with? Because trust me, the world is waiting to hear it.